Hey everybody, this is Jerry Nines coming back to you finally with the long-awaited update on my Springfield SA-35 pistol. Here is my Springfield SA-35 pistol. It is still sealed as it came from the factory. We're going to open it together on camera and then we're going to get shooting. But let me go ahead and give you an update on what's happened thus far with this pistol, and also the substance of some of the conversations I've had with Springfield, and some of them are kind of interesting. So early February of this year, 2022, I got this pistol, bought it from a retail place. Nobody sent it to me. I was on a waiting list for it for a couple of months. Wanted to put the gun in front of all of you on camera, really to try to dispel some myths or some, I guess, claims people were making that the SA-35 for some reason is unsafe because it doesn't have a captive sear pin or sear lever, I should say. The fact that it was, some people had said that there were some problems in terms of feeding and extracting, etc. So I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and grab a random gun, one that hasn't been cherry picked by anybody. Let's just go ahead and put it on the range. I took it out first couple of outings and it was great. It was perfect, flawless feed and ejection. To be totally fair to Springfield, after the first, I guess, of about 150 rounds, I switched over to Winchester white box 115 grain, which you can read in the comments in some of my earlier videos. People are like, oh, that isn't the greatest ammo, what's up with that? I mean, Winchester white box is kind of like Wrigley's gum, right? It's like, it's everywhere and it's sort of a go-to. I don't recall having any problems with Winchester white box 115 grain with any of my other guns that are out there. And when we go and when we shoot this gun here in a couple of days, we'll do a little bit of that as well. But I sent the gun to Springfield. They were great to work with. I called them up. They were like, no problem. They sent me a shipping tag. They got it back to me in, I think, like a week. Got it back out to the range in front of all of you, and failures to extract again. And in addition, I found another problem I had on two occasions, only one I caught on video, unfortunately, of a dead trigger issue where, the firearm was loaded, the weapon was cocked, the safety was in the off position or fire position, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get that hammer to drop until I manually cycled the action. So I sent it back to Springfield, and this is where things get a little, I guess weird is an okay way to say it. I sent it back to Springfield, and after about, I don't know, maybe a week or 10 days of radio silence, I called them up. I talked to the gentleman that I'd been talking to. He was like, yeah, well, our technician looked at it, and looking at the notes, looks like he loaded it with a couple of magazines, put 30 rounds through it, and can't find any problem. It's cycled reliably, no dead trigger issue, so it's ready to go back to you. And I said, whoa, pump the brakes. I said, just because your guy put 30 rounds through it doesn't mean that you've fixed anything. I have video evidence, failures to extract, video evidence of this dead trigger issue. I'd really like to have the gun looked at. And he said, okay. He said he would reach out to the technician. I offered to send him links to the YouTube videos that show both issues. He said, yeah, go ahead and send those. And then at that point, I didn't hear anything for about another week. So, what did I do? I reached back out and I got an email back that was really kind of strange and irritating. And that email said, our technician looked at your video and you're using 115 grain ammo. Maybe you need to try a heavier bullet weight. That might help with your failures to extract. And who knows, that might also help with your dead trigger. Imagine right now like a phonograph needle squealing across a record, sort of that sound, because I was like, okay, none of this makes sense. We all know that the pivotal part in the operation cycle on a semi-automatic firearm, especially using the Browning short recoil system, is that when the barrel dips down, when it's unlocking, then the extractor pawl has a little bit less of a purchase on that cartridge rim, and so therefore that is where problems most often occur with failures to extract. Bullet weight, as far as I know, has nothing to do with that, especially since by the time extraction starts, the bullet has left the muzzle, and then the dead trigger issue, the fact they wanted to lump that into bullet weight, just made no sense whatsoever. So I emailed back a relatively long email, and I challenged him and basically went through everything that I just went through with you. At that point, I got no further answer. I left a couple of voicemail messages for the guy. I mean, let's remember, this came back today, and they've had it for a month. So within the first week and a half or so is when all these conversations have happened, and then I heard nothing. About another week, maybe 10 days went by. I called, instead of calling the gentleman who I had his direct line, I just called the regular customer service line. I talked to a woman there, super nice, super easy to do business with. And she's like, oh, I see in our notes that your gun is now in the hands of our plant manager. I got his name. By the way, Springfield, I don't know why it is that whenever you try and get somebody's name from one of your customer service people, they act like you're a bill collector. I literally had to press this woman. She was like, well, it's in our plant manager's hands. And I said, oh, great. What's that gentleman's name, for my notes? Well, he's our plant manager. And I said, okay, yeah, what's that person's name? And I'm not going to use the real name because maybe they're sensitive to that. And plus, I don't remember it. But they were like, she was like, Lou. I was like, okay, Lou who? Right? And finally, she gave me his last name. And actually said it kind of quick, almost like maybe I wouldn't catch it. Just weird. But anyway, then I don't hear anything back. She does end the call saying, I have it in here that you'll be hearing from either the plant manager or maybe our head person in customer service. They're going to contact you. We have your phone number. They're going to call you directly. It might be the plant manager. If not, it will definitely be our customer service manager. Neither of those people ever contacted me that I know about. I didn't have any missed calls from Geneseo, Illinois. Never got an email, but I did get the automated thing that said, hey, we're sending your firearm back. Somebody's got to be there over 21 to sign for it. And again, I got that today. Now, with that automated message, I did get the packing list / synopsis of what's been done to it. And I'm going to show that in the unboxing video that we're going to do here in just a few minutes. That basically goes in and talks about everything they did. A lot of the steps were the same. There were some different ones. We'll talk about those. And then they also make a very clear note about the types of ammunition that they cycled to the gun, they fired to the gun, and also how many people had the opportunity to do that. We're going to go ahead and change location so I can get things set up to where you can watch me unbox. And then from there, we'll get out to the range. We'll just see what happens. I'm excited. I kind of hope it all works. Like I said, we're gonna maybe meet Springfield halfway. We're gonna shoot some Winchester white box through it, but we're also gonna shoot some other stuff through it, maybe a little higher quality ammo as well. By the way, a couple of things really quickly. I don't know if you've noticed how much better the sound is on this video than my other ones, but I upgraded some of my audio equipment. I have a brand new shotgun mic. As always, this entire channel is self-funded. Nobody pays me for reviews. I'm not running any ads. If this content is something you'd like to see happen and continue to happen, not just with the SA-35 pistol, but onwards, I also am posting videos of my online Firearms Academy. There is some information below via Patreon as well as via Buy Me a Coffee, their site, if you wanted to support the channel. Whether you want to do that or not, hey, enjoy. YouTube videos are free to you to watch. But additionally, please do consider maybe subscribing down below. That's all for now. We'll go ahead and get to unboxing here in just a minute. Thanks. Okay, here we go with the unboxing. Let's go ahead and first check out the packing list. So the packing list is here. This is going to be an exact copy of what I got via email. Just show you the pertinent information here. This says inspected pistol, safety checked and tested 30 rounds, no issues, trigger reset every time, replaced extractor, HP extractor. I imagine that since that has a part number, that's the replacement. They polished the trigger bar, tested with 115 ball and 124 grain ball. This was interesting because, again, this is where they said, oh, maybe it's 115 grain that's giving you a problem, which I almost can't believe that a firearms technician would actually say that. Tested with 115 ball and 124 ball by 3 different shooters, no malfunctions, and then the mag lock and the zip and black box that I sent with the gun, and they're sending that back. So there's my packing list, as well as sort of the notes of everything that went on with it. I really kind of wish that Springfield would spring for, some sort of a narrative. Hey, Mr. Hennelly, hey, Jerry Nines, right? We checked your pistol, and these are the parameters. This is how we tested it. This is what we found. This is what we did. They don't do any of that, which, like I said, from a customer perspective, see if maybe that added light helps a little bit just to see, but there's really nothing much to see. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this to the range, and we will see together what happens. Okay, here we are on the range. Beautiful day here in Central Ohio. First one in a while. So we're going to go ahead and get shooting. For those of you who like to fast forward through until you get to where you think some shooting is going to happen, that's great. I do the same thing, but you may want to go back and at least listen to what Springfield Armory told me about this pistol. Before we get to the SA-35, just back from Springfield Armory for the second time, some of you in the comments, and I myself, have questioned, well, how much of this is ammo? If you remember, we started off shooting some different higher quality ammo. We then went to Winchester white box, and we did start having malfunctions. So what I thought I'd do first of all is let's go ahead and look at some other 9mm that I have, all loaded with Winchester white box, and let's run through those really quickly, and then we'll get to the Springfield Armory and we'll talk about exactly what we're doing there. So number 1, Glock 17, generation, I think it's a Gen 3, and this is 10 rounds Winchester white box. A little bit more of an esoteric choice. This is a Lionheart Lh9 Compact. Believe it or not, this is actually a really great gun. I'm going to do an entire video about this at some point, but let's go ahead and check it out. Ten rounds Winchester white box. At least for me, the venerable Smith & Wesson 6946, double action only. I've owned this particular gun for over 30 years, countless thousands of rounds through it. At one point, not too long ago, I was in a shooting school, I was using it, and I think the gun had just gotten fatigued. It actually had a malfunction where the detent that holds in the slide stop had actually backed out during shooting. I went in and I did a replacement of all springs with the Wolf Springs kit, and I haven't fired this gun since, but let's go and give it a try. 10 rounds Winchester white box. The B&T GHM9. This is a registered short barrel rifle. 10 rounds Winchester white box. And then there's a bunch of ZQI in here, so why not shoot it? We just went through 3 different handguns and 1 military style short barreled rifle, all with Winchester white box without a bauble. What I wanted to do, and I said this before, we're going to meet Springfield kind of halfway, and let's start off with some high quality ammo. I have not shot this gun since it came back. You saw the unboxing, you saw my we had a little conversation with Winchester Active Duty M1152. This is a really high quality training ammo, and I have fired this before. in the gun without any problem. Springfield Armory SA-35, back from its second time at the factory. I haven't fired it before right now. A failure to feed. Last round extracted and ejected. And then we got a failure to feed. Yeah, failure to feed, it was, you wouldn't call it a stovepipe because that's when an empty shell hangs out in the ejection port. But it was facing up and it kind of trying to drive up toward the top of the slide there. Well, I think that's, since we started having problems, I think that's the longest uninterrupted string we've had without any extraction issues. Okay, next we're gonna do 5 rounds of Remington Golden Saber, 9mm plus P, and this is their 124 grain. And then we also have some of the Winchester Train and Defend. This is also gonna be 9mm, and this is gonna be their I think that's 124 grain as well. And then we have about 10 or 11 rounds of the Winchester Active Duty M1152 that we've been running through the Springfield. First, let's do 5 rounds of the Golden Saber. Five rounds of the Train and Defend. Ten, 11, 12 rounds of that Winchester 1152. We're going to continue on with the 1152. I also have some other rounds that we will get loaded up. I'll tell you what those are. And we'll continue on. So far, things are a lot better. That one failure to feed malfunction, I didn't love. You know, again, let's just go ahead and see what happens. These next 10 rounds are going to be PMC Bronze 115 grain, jacketed hollow point. After that, the second magazine will be the Winchester 1152, which is that training round, is what we've been shooting. And then we're going to bring back what so far has been the nemesis for this gun, which is the Winchester White Box 115 grain full metal jacket ball ammunition. So let's go ahead and see what we get first from the PMC Bronze 115 grain jacketed hollow point. M1152, that flat nose, that training cartridge. And now what I think we've all been waiting for to some degree, Winchester White Box 115. We're going to continue on, but it does seem, as of right now, that Springfield Armory has delivered a gun better than the one that I sent back the second time. Hey, you know, for those of you who are shooters, and maybe have somebody in your life who isn't a shooter, maybe wants to learn a little bit about it, wants to at least be safe around firearms, go ahead and check out my series, my online Firearms Academy. There is where I break things down, very, very basic. I take all of my experience as a firearms instructor, have taught CCW classes for years here in Ohio. We went over to constitutional carry, so CCW classes kind of don't happen much anymore, quite frankly. So I thought, but you know what, we still need to have good training. It's always a good thing to be safe and knowledgeable. So like I said, maybe you can just take somebody that doesn't normally watch gun videos on YouTube and say, hey, you know, here's a great place to start. So check those out if you feel like it. I'm going to continue on with some Winchester White Box. For those of you that were watching the earlier videos, have been following this series and this particular gun, one of the things that had experienced was a dead trigger, right? The trigger just locked up and would not fire the gun. I had 2 of those over, I think, 70 rounds maybe. They said in their write-up, as you saw in the beginning of the video, that they polished the trigger bar. I have to say, and again, this could be just my finger getting used to this trigger, but I have to say the trigger feels pretty good right now. I think the reset is a lot better, a lot more tactile. You know, all in all, it's it was never an unpleasant gun to shoot, you know, when it worked, right? But it's nicer. So let's go ahead. Let's get some more rounds through this. We're going to use the M1152. Gun's getting kind of hot. Well, tell me what you think down in the comments below. I don't think that we've had this many rounds through the gun without it malfunctioning, without having a failure to extract. Again, early on in that first firing string, we did have that one failure to feed. And, you know, while not ideal, firearms malfunction, we get that. So everything from the extraction perspective and from the trigger perspective seems pretty good. Let's go and get some more rounds through it though. Okay, first 5 rounds are going to be Winchester Golden Saber. Again, a very streetable load, a very high quality load for self-defense, concealed carry work. And then the balance of those will be that Winchester 1152 training. At some point we get to the question, Jerry Nines, would you carry this gun for self-defense concealed carry based upon what we have now? I would say that the jury is somewhat out, but I'm feeling a lot better about it. I do believe that if you're going to carry a gun for serious purposes, then you should carry that gun that is going to be as serious in terms of its ability to operate as you are in your ability to defend yourself and others. With that, the jury's out, but I'm kind of leaning that way. Let's go ahead and put some offhand rounds through it. You all know I am a lefty. Let's go ahead and one hand offhand and see what happens. By the way, those were all Winchester white box. So that's pretty good. Let's do about 15 more rounds and then we'll wrap up the range day. Okay, working really well. I'm very happy. I wish it didn't have to go to Springfield twice. I wish it didn't have to go back to Springfield once, but it does seem like they have made good on their customer service promise. One final thing about the gun. One of the things that Springfield did talk about in their marketing was that they recontoured the hammer a little bit. You'll notice they have a ring hammer on there as opposed to the traditional spur hammer, which was kind of renowned for hammer bite, even in the, you know, obviously we're talking about the original Browning high powers. And so they went ahead and they recontoured, put the ring hammer on there and re-engineered the geometry somewhat to reduce the occurrence of hammer bite. You don't get slide bite really in Browning high powers, but you do potentially get hammer bite. And even though Springfield did, and kudos to them, they re-engineered the gun to, you know, mitigate that somewhat. You'll notice that they didn't do away with it altogether. I have noticed while firing this gun that I get a little sensation in some of the other earlier range days with this particular SA-35. You may have seen that. And so, yeah, I mentioned it, but I also mentioned it was kind of almost barely able to sense it or feel it. But with a little bit more extended firing, and this isn't really even extended firing, but I am noticing that I'm getting a little bit beat up. I got a little bit of an abrasion starting there. So what do you do about that? Well, maybe you have a hand that fits the gun better than I do, than mine does. Or, there are ways to, make this better. You can potentially put a different hammer on there. There are some gunsmiths, I think they're called Mark III, MK3 Firearms out of Las Vegas, Nevada. They put an extended beaver tail on the gun, which really physically separates your, the junction of your trigger finger and thumb where that bite happens with a piece of aluminum. So we actually go ahead and extend the beaver tail back. It's a little pricey, about 350 bucks or so, but if it's a problem, maybe that's what you do. You could also just go to Home Depot and buy a mechanic's glove and throw it on there, and it wouldn't be a problem. The reality is that if you needed to use any firearm in an emergency, in a life-threatening situation, defending yourself, defending someone else, that's not going to be a problem. You're going to fire a handful of rounds, and you're not going to be feeling anything about, in terms of a little bit of bruising on the web of your fingers, so that won't be an issue. But when you are going to the range, it becomes problematic. There are a couple fixes for that. So this is Jerry Nines taking the long look at the Springfield SA-35. What's next with this gun? Well, I'm going to continue to work it on the range. I am going to fulfill my promise to you, and at least until I get what is about 1,000 rounds through the gun, and I think we're probably about 600 rounds total through the gun right now. But until then, you're going to go ahead and get all those rounds on camera. I'll probably just post those periodically. And then we have some other really exciting Browning high power related content coming up for you. A really big name in the Browning high power customization racket or business or whatever you want to call it has contacted me, and they're actually sending me one of their sort of full house customs. So I should have that. Right now it's Saturday. I should have that on Monday, and then I'll arrange to get some shooting done and some filming done within the next week. So please stay tuned for that. And you know what? When that video drops, I'll just make sure, link it here and kind of put a little card up right at the end. Hey, I'm Jerry Nines, and we're ringing out the Springfield SA-35 long-term test of a gun that I own, along with some other, what I consider to be really good firearms knowledge delivered to you via YouTube. If this is something you like and you think you want to continue to support, go ahead and look at the links down below. Patreon, give me $5 a month, maybe for a couple of months. And they also have the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee site where you can go in and just drop me $3 or $5 or whatever. Helps me out with ammo, helps me out with video equipment, etc. By the way, I want to talk about this really quickly when it comes to Patreon. I thought about this today. If you go into Patreon right now and you hit the $5 a month support thing, then go ahead and do that. Set an alarm or a calendar in your phone for 5 months from now. In 5 months, you'll have graciously donated me $25. If you look back and you're like, you know what? I don't think the $25 is worth what content I've received since then or in total, you go ahead and you drop me a line and I'll send you $25 back. So nice way to support the channel, nice way, risk-free, to help me out, and also a money back guarantee of you feeling you're getting that money's worth. Hey, I'm Jerry Nines. I'm having a lot of fun out here, and I hope you are too. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye. And God bless America.